Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. been slain. Enemy killing spree. Has been destroyed. An enemy is unstoppable. Your turret has been destroyed. been slain.
Hi friends, my name is Tris, and this is No Boilerplate, focusing on fast, technical videos. Today I hope to show you that Rust is ready for use in your company in production now. Not only that, but if you're not using Rust, you're missing out on a sea change in how we build software. Rust is 16 years old, has more packages than NPM did in 2012, has first-class support on all enterprise clouds, and has in-browser support with WebAssembly for 5 years. It has been the most loved language according to the largest developer survey on the planet for 7 years. That's every single year since 1.0, and it's not even close. I don't think Rust is perfect, but I think Rust can allow you to write perfect code. While it isn't perfect, Rust's compromises are excellent. The Rust team seems to have chosen the exact features I wish I had in all the other languages I've used over the last 15 years. Rust has all the features I want, and none of the features I don't. It's not even that interesting a list. Rust isn't flashy, it's boring. You know what isn't boring? Seafaring in the ancient Mediterranean. If you were a sailor or a merchant, you would understand that you would just lose ships to the sea now and then. So it was, so it has always been. Most of the sea was unexplored, and there were monsters, no doubt, taking the ships. These were the risks that you had to accept to operate on the high seas. You know what else isn't boring? Software. And I don't mean that in a good way. In our field in 2022, everyone accepts that there are some things you just have to deal with in order to write software. Some lies programmers believe about software include, but are not limited to, that software must be built with unknowable layers of abstraction, scaling horizontally is the best way to solve your problems, syntax is your enemy, low-level speed and high-level ergonomics are mutually exclusive, and if you don't use YAML and JavaScript to solve your problems, you will have to use XML and Java. I have been a web developer for 15 years, writing backends in Python, Ruby and Node, and frontends in various JavaScript frameworks. I am tired of writing bullshit that I can't guarantee, and I'm not alone. Linus Torvalds is not an easy man to please. As you probably know, Linus created and oversees the development of the Linux kernel. He is a detail-oriented man who cares about reliability over all else. And yet, when Rust support was recently merged into the Linux kernel, many veteran developers decried this step as bowing to a flashy, fashionable new language. The idea that Linus would approve of Rust due to peer pressure is laughable to those who know his reputation. Linus is absolutely right to be so conservative. Nearly every computer used to show you this video, from your Wi-Fi router to the network systems in your school, company and ISP, to Google's global video distribution network, is running this kernel. There are islands of Mac devices, but Linux is the ocean. There are clouds of Windows networks, but Linux is the sky. We are not talking about your pet projects or your company's production projects. We're not even talking about real-time banking software and hospital systems that are shipped when they satisfy the business requirements. We are talking about Linux. Linux has to be perfect. Rust is not the first language to be tried as an alternative to C to write the Linux kernel. C++ was proposed 25 years ago, but failed to meet Linus's and the community's extremely high standards. C++ is not good enough for the Linux kernel, but Rust is. And Rust, despite being a better language to write the Linux kernel in than C, is also a fantastic web development language, on the back end and front end, with superpowers JavaScript can only dream of. This is Jack Dorsey, who built Twitter. Twitter started out using a Ruby on Rails monolith, then switched to a Scala backend and microservices. Jack didn't build Twitter with C or C++, even though they are fast. He's a web developer. He used a high-level language. Rust is also a very high-level language, and the web development side of the community has delivered. Rocket, for example, is one of the handful of stable, feature-rich back-end web development frameworks the Rust community has built. If you write your web server in Rocket and your program compiles, many things are guaranteed before you even test them, such as all get params are handled, all return values are valid, no SQL injection, there are no invalid data pathways in your code, no memory errors, no null pointer exception, no nulls anywhere in Rust, as a matter of fact. Rust has no heavyweight, slow abstractions. Code compiles down to for loops and if statements, running on bare metal. Your app will have a predictable behavior profile as you scale, unlike Java, JavaScript, and Go. This predictable runtime behavior is something Discord recently adopted Rust to achieve. By the way, did you know I run a Discord server? Come chat about Rust, programming, or my other projects, Lost Terminal and Modem Prometheus, too. For a few years, Discord's backend was mostly Go and Erlang, a functional concurrent programming language and system. But Go was not fast enough for Discord. Or it was, but every 2 minutes there would be these latency spikes. Those who have worked on distributed systems already know what the problem is, because no matter what the language, this kind of spiky graph always has the same culprit. Garbage collection pauses. Once the Discord team exhausted all optimizations for Go, they had to switch to a language without a garbage collector, and they chose Rust. Even with just basic optimization, Rust was able to outperform their hand-tuned Go version. After a bit of profiling and performance optimization, Rust beat Go on every single performance metric. Latency, CPU, and memory were all better in the Rust version. But you don't have to wait until you experience production issues to adopt a language without the compromises of a garbage collector. Rust is ready today. Let's look at another example. Cloudflare recently rewrote their core proxy service because Nginx was not fast enough. I'll say that again. Nginx was not fast enough. The fastest industry standard web proxy written in C was not fast enough. Pingora, their pure Rust replacement, uses 70% less CPU and 67% less RAM while serving 1 trillion requests a day. What Cloudflare did is move from a two-component system, Nginx scripted with Lua, to a single-component system, Pingora, written in Rust. This is an example of Rust's universality. You do not need a highly striated system with slow applications written in high-level languages and fast plumbing written in C. Rust can do it all. Though Rust can be used in your entire stack, from bare metal chips through back-end web development to in-browser with WebAssembly, there are some tasks that the Rust community can currently help you with more, and some they can help you with less. You can still do everything if you're very clever, but in one case you'll be able to rely upon more community code, and it's here I recommend you start, just as Discord and Cloudflare did, with lightning-fast back-end web development. I keep saying fast, but what do I mean by that? Rust is as fast as C, and in a world where most popular languages are many times, sometimes hundreds of times slower, this is paradigm-changing. But how much faster is it than the other languages we use to write the web today? Well, it's complicated. Benchmarks differ wildly. I'm sorry if the numbers in your favourite benchmark don't match mine. The only thing we can hope benchmarks agree on is the approximate order of fastest languages and slowish languages. This is my attempt at generalizing benchmarks into categories of similar speed languages. The values here are deliberately approximate, but you get the idea. Each category has enormous error margins of the order of about 50%. And even then, many languages swap around, depending on what type of benchmark you do. But whatever benchmarks you look at, Rust dominates. The elephant in the room is that most of the time, pure language speed doesn't affect your app as much as these numbers suggest, because we're waiting for network, disk, or other I/O. Cloudflare were using Lua until recently, for example. But a very important area that does matter is in development ergonomics. Language speed affects development time enormously. If your tests run in 1 second, pipelines deploy instantly, transpilation is all done inside the compiler, and the language is rich enough that linting itself is also handled inside the compiler, then you can iterate faster, both your team and all external contributors. You and I would not be here talking about Rust if it was another fringe language that people are excited about but don't use. Perhaps I'd be talking about Haskell or Clojure or Julia, 3 languages I love very much, but would not build a team around today. There are more Rust projects on GitHub than Scala, Swift, and Kotlin. Another metric to look at is how many third-party packages Rust has. The answer is about 100,000, about the same as NPM had in 2012. Rust's package manager is very clever and worth a detour to talk about. Rust's package registry is called crates.io, and the package tool is called Cargo. When running a package registry, you have the problem of what to do with bad package versions that either have unacceptable bugs or security vulnerabilities. We want 2 incompatible things. We want packages to be idempotent and perennial, but what we build today should build in a decade. But we also want to allow package authors to be able to remove bad versions that should not be used. The way Cargo solves this is clever. Package versions can't be deleted, they can only be yanked. A yanked package can still be used if it is in your project's lock file, so existing projects will not break, but new projects cannot use this version. Cargo will display an error and advise an upgrade. This is an example of Rust's commitment to backwards compatibility without compromising new features. Rust has learned from both C and C++ and has a sensible middle ground, as illustrated by this comment. Code written today will be guaranteed to compile in all future versions of Rust, while still being able to be used with future code rewrite in new versions of Rust. This system is called Rust Editions. As of time of recording, we are using edition 2021. This is what is meant when we say there will be no Rust 2.0, as that suggests breaking change. Rust will never have breaking changes. As I have said in previous videos, the last 40 years have been written in C. The next 40 years will be written in Rust. It's not a question of if you will adopt Rust, but when. Rust is ready now. Are you? If you'd like to see what you can write in Rust, click the top video. I used it to make a fun retro computer visualization for my sci-fi podcast, Lost Eternal. Or if urban fantasy is more your bag, click the bottom video to listen to a strange and beautiful podcast I produce called Modem Prometheus. If you'd like to support my work, head to patreon.com/noboilerplate. Transcripts and compiled checked markdown source code are available on GitHub, links in the description, and corrections are in the pinned errata comment. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you on Discord.
Been slain.
Hey everybody, what up? All right, so it is not a good time, I don't think, to be learning how to do technology programming. I just kind of forewarning video. Like, there's a lot of news coming out lately that kind of shows that things are pretty fucked, to be honest. So, like Amazon, one of the biggest hiring companies out there in tech, they just announced an actual hiring freeze today. In addition to that, you obviously have Twitter being bought by Elon Musk, and that is now in a situation where, like, I guess they're going to lay off 33% of their employees tomorrow, I guess is what I heard. So Elon Musk buying Twitter, you know, that is, like, I guess maybe to be expected because he's trying to turn the company around to be profitable. That kind of brings up the point, though, over the last, really ever since the dot-com bubble, tech was relatively, it would seem, unscathed during the 2008 downturn. Whereas when you look at, like, the job market for technology employees and the dot-com bubble, like, you couldn't find a job anywhere. So all the people that were in that industry, I mean, tons of companies were overvalued, kind of like what we're seeing now. And we've seen this retreat happen all year long, it seems like, with the S&P and companies like Meta being down about 70%. Companies like Shopify with the gig economy, they're down 70% this year. In addition, you have Stripe that just announced that they're going to be laying off 15% of their workforce today. And that factors into the gig economy. So, like, you know, for all of these companies, like even companies like myself, where I sell courses on CodeHawk, some of those, about half of those purchases are facilitated through Stripe, maybe a little bit more than half. But basically, they had grown quite a bit in a short period of time. And you look at companies, like I said, like Shopify, that provides a lot of revenue for them. And then companies like Lyft. Lyft is another company that just announced they were laying off 15% of their employees today. And this has been going on for quite some time. So, I mean, Google announced 10% not long ago, but their stock is being hammered at this point. Apple's market share is still somehow right now bigger than Amazon, Google/Alphabet, and Facebook combined, so Meta combined. So I read that today. So Apple still seems to be doing good, but they're now retreating. So a lot of money is just being evaporated left and right. So it just seems like with all of these layoffs, and this is just to name a few. Obviously, this has been going on since about April of this year, where layoffs are being announced left and right. It seems like it's now starting to happen all over the place. And for any self-taught developer out there that's going to be looking for a job, I mean, essentially what is going to happen if this continues is that you're going to have a lot of people with, 5-10 years of experience, probably with college degrees as well, standing in line looking for that technology job that you're also looking for. So salaries are going to end up retreating. Ultimately, this is what the Fed wants, because the Fed wants to ruin the labor market to the extent that people will stop spending money and salaries will essentially go down, demand for products will go down, and prices will come down, and inflation will hopefully stabilize. With all this going on, it seems like just the perfect storm of hell, because you have the war in Russia, and then you have basically a Cold War with China. You still have COVID raging throughout parts of the world, and economic lockdowns and things. So there's still like a supply chain constraint. And we still see that with the fact that you can't get chips, like you can't find a Raspberry Pi, you can't find a PlayStation 5. Everything is just seeming to there's a lot of panic going on. And this video is not really about trying to panic people even more, but I think it's a situation where it's like, damn, like no matter, even if you feel like you're doing well, like this is now going to be between my adult life, the dot-com bubble, the Great Recession of 2008, COVID, and then now, whatever we even have going on right now, which is difficult to say exactly what sort of economic conditions we're facing, because it almost seems like, although in hindsight, I guess recessions can usually have some predictable cause or whatever, but like with 2000 it was the dot-com bubble, and then with 2008 it was a subprime mortgage crisis, and this time though it's like, well, what is it? It's like a combination of the Fed spending trillions of dollars in quantitative easing. For instance, we have valuations of companies like Berkshire Hathaway that is considered on this list as the #1 most profitable company. So it's got profits every year of $81 billion. $81 billion in profits. When you compare that to something like Tesla, Tesla has a larger market capitalization, all based on growth perspectives, and they make just a fraction of the amount of profit that a company like Berkshire Hathaway makes. And maybe Berkshire Hathaway is not the best example, or Tesla really is not the best example, because at least they make money. But you look at something like Twitter. I mean, has Twitter ever turned a profit in their entire existence? They've had profitable quarters, but if you add up all their the time that they've been in existence, I would imagine that they haven't actually made any money. And that is relatively common with growth stocks. Like Amazon didn't make money for the first 10 years that they were in existence. And then even after they were making money, they still had a major stock valuation, because there was the idea that they were going to be able to make a lot of money at some point in time. And that's still, the case to this day. But, a company like Berkshire Hathaway that a lot of people don't know about, I would say a lot of people outside of stock, because, Berkshire Hathaway, they own a lot of products, but they're a relatively small company, being that there are only like 50 people that work there. Specifically, I worked for a Berkshire Hathaway company for a long time, but a lot of people don't realize like how profitable and stable a company like that is, because they are invested in like a lot of consumer stuff. They weren't involved in the dot-com bubble, because Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett specifically didn't want to invest in companies that he didn't understand and didn't see the value in. And it turns out he was relatively right. Definitely right during the dot-com bubble. He sort of missed out, I think, on not jumping into companies like Amazon or Apple, really, like when it was early on. But all this being said is like, I think what we're seeing here is we're seeing a humongous correction with overvaluations that have occurred due to the free availability of cash, from the Fed printing off money with quantitative easing, all the stimulus, all the loan forgiveness, PPP loans, all this garbage that we've seen. And I think, it's all now hitting us all at one time, it feels like. So how does one even get ahead during these boom and bust cycles? That's really my question. I mean, for me, like I've been buying the S&P dip all year and just watching my money like not do anything really, just except for the money that I put into it. But obviously I'm buying at a discounted rate, and the goal is long term that it's going to recover. But sometimes like you really don't know. Like the Japanese economy their stock valuations never recovered from the 1990s. You look at companies like Cisco, their stock hit all-time highs back in 1999 and still haven't reached that level to date. So that term, you don't want to catch a falling knife. Like I was talking about Meta and Facebook the other day, saying that people are freaking out on Meta and Facebook and selling off the stock. I feel like at an unrealistic clip here at this point. It's down another 2% almost today. So, I mean, they've lost hundreds of billions of dollars in market capitalization already, and it continues to go down. But where are we going to go from here? So at this point, if Facebook doesn't recover soon, they're going to be laying off a ton more of their staff. You got a lot of experienced developers that are going to be looking for work. All this stuff is already hitting Main Street when it comes to going to the grocery store or buying gas. The prices are astronomical, and how quickly they've gone up is unbelievable. And then the fact that the inflation numbers are remaining high as the economy is sort of contracting. I know that they announced third quarter GDP was actually like a positive versus the declines that we had in the previous quarters. But there's always revisions, and I'm curious if the revision is actually going to show that there was actually a gain in the GDP or not. The only benefit, I think, for being in the United States is that the value of the dollar is going up at least. So it seems like at this point, with the Bank of England announcing that they're going to have the longest recession on record going back to their record keeping, which goes back to the 1920s, and then the Eurozone having to deal with the war, and then there's going to be an energy crisis, and obviously the price of gas is going to go up, and that's not going to help inflation in the short term. And then, as I mentioned before, that you got the war that's continuing to rage on. This is, it just feels like it is difficult to get ahead when we have to constantly be faced with this bullshit. Like my generation, Generation X / millennial, I can be classified as either one, has been pretty screwed. I would say the entire millennial generation has been absolutely ravaged. And this isn't even really like with the interest rates rising. Obviously, the housing market's going to collapse, and when that happens, as it's already doing, so then you're going to have a lot of people that don't have equity anymore. They're going to be upside down on their loans. Hopefully, people don't start defaulting like they did in 2008. But that also affects everybody that works on houses, companies that want to invest in new factory equipment. All that stuff is going to start freezing up even more. It just seems like this is like a self-fulfilling panic prophecy, and it even extends into things like YouTube. Like somebody like my channel, I've noticed that there's been less of an interest in just overall web development. Now I don't have like the actual statistics to show that, except for just YouTube numbers being down. And I was like thinking, well, maybe it's just me and my channel. But then when I look at somebody like that is like a counterpart that has been very successful in the whole YouTube game for a long time, is Traversy Media. And I look at his numbers. I mean, he did a video 8 days ago that has 19,000 views. So a video before that, 2 weeks, 29,000 views. 3 weeks ago, 35,000 views. It seems like across the board, even people that I used to enjoy watching, which I don't really have time, but like, Josh Blue, you can only capitalize on crushing corporations and layoffs and stuff. But like, it just seems like everybody's sort of feeling a decline in the economy. Or maybe it's just me, but I feel like what we're seeing now is very reminiscent to me of 2008. And granted, I had just started getting into the workforce in 2000. I wasn't, too affected by the dot-com bubble, but I had relatives that were in the industry. I've heard horror stories from people that were in the industry. And it's, I think we're in for a rough ride. If you're learning to code, I recommend you check out my website, codehawk.com.
The new Chemtech Drake has finally been revealed. I'm going to show you everything new, so let's get into it. These changes are going to be coming with the preseason patch next week, and this was teased a while ago by Riot, but we now have the exact numbers and confirmation for what everything does. Just in case you haven't seen what it looks like in game though, here's the clip.
The plants on the map mutate and become empowered. For example, Scry's Bloom will grant movement speed when moving towards revealed enemies, and Blast Cone will take you further than ever before, like from blue buff to mid lane.
So the buff you get for each time you kill a Chemtech Drake is plus 5% tenacity and heal shield power. The upgrade for Chemtech Soul is if you're below 50% HP, you deal plus 10% damage and take negative 10% damage. For the Rift effect, it upgrades plants, the Blast Cone will hit you double distance, the fruit no longer slows and gives you a small shield, and the Scry's Bloom change goes from cone to AoE and it gives bonus MS when running towards revealed enemy champions. It also reduces the HP of wards revealed by 1. So super interesting changes. At a first glance this looks way less annoying than the original Chemtech Drake, and I'm actually pretty excited for this one. But as always, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you want to see more upcoming preseason changes, click the video on your screen.
Today. Not just conservatives, but I gotta tell you, right now, my man Nate Silver, 538 guy, probably not having a great day. Oh boy. You know, the most, to me at least, the most shocking upset of the evening would probably be the fact that Bobert ended up losing, despite being given a 97-3. You know, but no. Bobert lost. This is from before the votes were actually completed, but no, she actually lost by a decent margin. So that's cool. It hasn't been called yet. Yeah, but like, is there any way? Hold on. When I checked like 3 hours ago, it was like, there's no way. No shot at over. That's what I thought. Okay, we'll check. Hold on. Bobert election. Any more votes been counted since this came out? It is 93% reporting, 1% in the lead for Adam Frisch, and she probably lost because of redistricting. Her previous district lines were deep red, now they're purple. Ah, the power. It's the huge one. The hugest one. This is District 3. It's so big. Oh my god, it's so big. Only votes left are in blue areas. Listen, let's just say that let's just say that Nate Silver has got some splaining to do, you know. So he'll have fun with that, I assume. In reality, as all of you have probably seen, looking over social media, the red wave did not happen. It is not guaranteed, but reasonably likely that the Democrats will just barely hold on to the Senate. And while it's not, you know, likely, there's still a slim little margin of the Dems keeping the House. I don't expect that to happen, but the fact that it's not completely impossible is a fucking miracle. That's what I'm saying right here. I say 1% chance. 1% chance is a dream. The fact that there is even a 1% chance of Dems holding the House this far in, after all the shit we've seen, that's a goddamn miracle. I don't expect it to happen, though. I expect red House, narrow blue Senate, which does deny the Republicans complete control over the legislature. How nice is that, huh? We have seen some fairly interesting trends. Obviously, Fetterman won. You know, we opened the stream with that, and he won by a good margin, too. Look at that. 3.4 percentage points? Wow, that's, sheesh, nearly 200,000 votes. It's like, that's pretty good, yeah. One of the things, I think it's important to note how remarkable this is that momentum was really not on our side here. First of all, we're experiencing some substantial economic problems at the moment. Also, midterms tend to go really poorly for the incumbent president's party because when economic problems or any problem at all crop up, people blame the president and therefore the party of the president because, again, Americans are, what, chat? Retarded, that's right. So, yeah, that's not good. It's what we are, you know? Me too, hey. But in spite of that, I mean, in spite of the fact that momentum really seemed to be swinging against the Dems, Republicans were not able to hold things together. They were not able to achieve that red wave. You know, the largest successes that we've seen from Republicans have been in New York and Florida. And we're going to talk about that. New York Times puts out these wonderful maps where you can see how much the votes in a county have shifted relative to the votes for the president in 2020. So over here in PA, we have, you see the little blue arrows? That means this county voted more blue than it did last time. Here's New York. What happened here? Well, a lot of stuff did. It's kind of complicated. It's got to do with districting. It has to do with the messaging of the Dems here. It's complicated. And when I say it's complicated, what I actually mean is, please let me talk about it extensively in the future when my IQ is back. Right. That's not great. Yeah, New York City mayor's dog shit, party direction, so on. You know, I've said this before, and also, I'm always right, so I'll say it again. when Democrats try to crib Republicans at their game, the whole law and order, we got to be tough on crime, we got to, austerity, we got to knuckle down. Listen, if you teach voters to care about that shit, they're just going to go right for the source. Republicans, okay? You can't give people a little bit of a police state and expect them to just stop with a little bit. That's the problem, It's like it's like a gateway drug, right? It's like opiates to fentanyl. You're giving a little bit of painkiller, then they're doing fentanyl in an alleyway outside of Denny's. You don't want to give them that. So don't. Super dumb. Don't do it. Okay, then explain Florida. Shut the fuck up. We're getting to Florida, okay? New York. Let's just say I blame the Irish. There we go. Nice. Okay. So the Florida version of this map doesn't actually show red arrows. It actually just shows a deep red Stygian pit from which the greatest creations of Satan will rise in the shape of Florida. Florida's lost, my friends. Florida, a swing state? No. Florida is the new bastion of the Republican Party. Ron DeSantis, the chosen one, the savior of fascism, rising. It is okay. So here's the thing. I talked about this a little bit before. You're going to have to suffer listening to me repeat myself just a smidge, okay? I've talked before about corporate control, right? To summarize, it's as simply as I am capable right now, okay? In a bourgeois democracy, which is what we live in, political parties, their power, their prominence, are heavily determined by the extent to which they're able to cultivate a positive relationship with business. If you can't get along with businesses, you really don't have a future in a country like this, because it represents the overwhelming, total economic power of the most economically powerful country to have ever existed. The Democratic and Republican parties, respectively, have cultivated a variety of campaign strategies to convince regular working people, I say pointing myself, to vote for them when the real agenda is protecting the interests of corporations. Republicans and Democrats do this in different ways. For Democrats, you got this fast, oh, hope, we're kind, we're decent. Republicans, you have the, we actually really hate minorities thing. There's a lot of different ways you can hit it, but at the end of the day, it's a veneer draped over economic austerity and basic business-oriented policies, in which the parties have mostly gotten along for a while. So, things are diverging a little bit. Why? Well, I'll tell you. See, you spend decades and decades and decades convincing people to vote against your interests. You got to come up with harder shit, right? Like, imagine you're the Republican Party. You're a campaign strategist, okay? How do you get a bunch of poor rural people to vote for you when you are just going to put them over in the most obvious and blatant way imaginable? Like, you are actively promoting policies that mathematically screw them over only to the benefit of the ultra-wealthy. You got to focus on other stuff, right? Like racism, for example. Blame immigrants. Fear mongers about trans people. Spook them. Maybe billionaires are stealing paychecks. At least they're not, black, however you're going to come out with. This is a long-standing strategy. That whole, hey, it's actually the immigrants taking your paycheck, that goes back centuries and centuries. Depending on how you want to define your terms, millennia. It's an old strategy. So, you give them harder and harder shit. And, we do live in a democracy, These people that you are campaigning to, they're going to run for office eventually. You give them harder and harder excuses to vote for your austerity policies, and eventually, all of a sudden, people who you are bringing into your political party are more interested in your excuse than they are the poor. Now you get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. Does Marjorie Taylor Greene care that much about corporate profits? I don't think so. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene's strongest opinions have to do with Jewish people, people of color. Don't get me wrong, I still think she'd back the business. But when it comes to what she really cares about, we've seen this before, haven't we? A little place called Schmeimar Schmermer. They say I go on about Germany, so this is a different place, okay? Steer business interests, economic collapse, the Great Depression. Now this guy, Schmadolf Schmittler, all right? Popular with some working class folks, it seemed. And he promised a lot of economically oriented reform. Obviously, he LARPed as a socialist for a little bit, at least a social democrat. He lied about all this bullshit, of course. As soon as he attained power, this man defined privatization, defined austerity. War economies do not leave much room for second dinners, I'll say that. But, get this guy, Schmadolf Schmittler, okay? People like Hindenburg, that was the conservative German president, they thought they could borrow the popularity, the vigor, the energy, the populism of this Schmittler fellow, but that they could rein him in when he was in power. They'll borrow his energy, his vibes, but the underlying systems of capital accumulation and business-oriented politicking would be maintained. They would just be given a little pizzazz. And what happened after that? What in the goddamn hell happened after that? What we are seeing right now is a late-stage resolution of this dialectical process. The process by which the degree of insanity of the leading fascist, Donald Trump, is he ideologically a fascist? I don't really think so. Ideologically, I think he's a narcissist. I just think he likes people applauding him. He likes crowds. I don't know. Ron DeSantis, I think, is a much more principled, ideological fascist, in the sense that I feel like if Donald Trump like fell and hit his head and got up and then wanted to seek approval from others in kind of like a new way, he would start talking about, trans people are the greatest. Boy motors are our greatest asset as Americans. Whatever he'd get applauded for. Ron DeSantis, though, this man's got fascism down ideologically, lockstep, and a lot of Trump-backed candidates fail. Overt seems like she's going to lose. Oz lost. Meanwhile, DeSantis crushed it in Florida. And you've got a lot of people saying, you've got Fox News saying, you've got a lot of conservatives saying, who's the future of the Republican Party? They're saying it's DeSantis. Florida is now the stronghold of the Republican Party. He is the He is the root, the base of the tree. And the reason for that is because he is capable of fronting the fascist politic without as much instability, idiosyncrasy, and without as much, they want a more stable guy back. That's what's happening in Florida right now. We're seeing sort of the origin. We're seeing the power being built. And the seeds of this conflict have been sown. I tell you, you might think you fear for the future. Imagine being a GOP political strategist right now. You know what they're all thinking? God, they think, I hope to God that Donald Trump trips and hits his head. That's what they're thinking. Because Trump is going to announce in Mar-a-Lago on the 15th, this month, that he's going to be running in 2024. DeSantis refused to say that he would be serving his entire gubernatorial term, because he's also going to run for 2024. DeSantis and Trump are going to go up against each other. DeSantis is the smarter pick in the long run for the GOP, but Trump will never back down. He will never hand over the keys. And for once, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I mean it fully and sincerely, the longevity of Donald Trump is actually critical anti-fascist action. Because the only possible outcome of a conflict between those two is a disruption of the GOP apparatus. If Donald Trump pops it sometime before that happens, then in his passing, implicitly the keys will be handed over. But if he's around to be a bitch about it, I hope to God that he is. And there is very strong potential for a high-level political conflict for the GOP primary. God. What a time it'll be. What a time. That's fine. Chris Rufo's basically saying this about Sanders. No, I'm not joking. Look at literally any conservative on Twitter right now. They're all saying the same thing. Trump backed more like crazy, Republican guys more openly Trump associated. They didn't do that well. These midterms. DeSantis is doing great. I don't know if DeSantis has the charisma to meaningfully lead the party in new wacky directions the way that Trump has. Reportedly, Trump is really close to it. There's that. What he was saying. Now here we go. Give it time. Is it true? Is it not? I believe it. The advisor went on to slam former President Trump. They were all bad candidates. Candidates matter, the advisor said. The attendees about fun. Ketchup coats the walls. It's all over the place, I am extremely excited to see conflict between those two if it emerges. Watch this Trump clip. I love watching Trump clips.
Well, I think if they win, I should get all the credit, and if they lose, I should not be blamed at all. Okay, but it will probably be just the opposite.
God, I love him. I would have Trump. I would have said the same thing. I really would have. Incredible. No notes.
Shut down.
Me too, bro. Thank you. God Almighty.
Double kill.
God, getting to watch him rip into DeSantis. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, the conditions. He's blaming the Lions. Oh, I saw that. Oh, I love him. I love him so much. Something indeed curious this morning, particularly about Oz, was going to get everyone who advised him back on, including his wife, describing it as not her best decision. What a goddamn thing. Absolutely. I want him to run. He'll be announcing his run. He will. He'll give it his best shot. He can't help it. And we fix him. Critical support to the biggest baby in politics. Absolutely. Okay, listen. That's we need to let that pot boil. That's super right. Look at. Now I want to talk a little bit about white. No. Yes. Anatomy of a close election. How Americans voted in 2022 versus 2018. So I want to be clear. Okay. In 2018, Democrats had a sweep in the midterms. because Donald Trump had been president for 2 years. And again, normally the party does poorly. The party of the people were not happy with. We got a huge wave which is great. So let's take a look at how this compares to 2023. All else being equal, if everything continues as expected, you would imagine that basically every demographic would do worse in this election for Dems than they did in 2018. Because 2018 was supposed to be the big blue wave, and this was supposed to be the big red wave. So what do we actually get? Well, what we're seeing right here, from left to right, the blue line represents Dem support, red Republican support, and where it's at between these two times. So for both men and women, Republican support went up, Democrat support went down. This is to be expected. The reason for that, again, is because the conditions in 2018 were ones favorable to Dems, and the conditions in 2022 were ones favorable to Republicans. You would expect an average, slant there. I see people in chat making fun of women, but I don't know if we're looking at the same image. Men skewed Republican both times. Women skewed Democrat both times. Men are consistently worse voters in this country than women are, by a significant amount. Just making sure we're all looking at the same graph here. By age. Now, obviously, the older you get, the more likely you are to vote red. The 30 to 44-year-old demographic saw the greatest shift here, from Dem plus 19 to Dem plus 4 between 18 and 22. Pretty significant shift. The other demographics, not so much. We see a 7-point drop for young people, a 9-point drop for the pretty old people, and then a 10-point drop for very old people. By race, ethnicity, and gender, white men, pretty much what you'd expect. White women, pretty much what you'd expect. Black men and black women demonstrating once more their sort of innate superiority, at least in terms of whatever genes make you make good voting decisions. So that's cool. This is the most shocking change right here. Latino men were almost split 50-50 between Dems and Republicans in 2022. This is a 21-point drop. Latino women had a 14-point drop, which is still pretty bad compared to the mean. Latino men, 21. That is a lot. Just positing a little theory here, but we've seen this before with the Italians and the Irish, which is if you have a minority group that's not treated well and considered a different race, they kind of get brought into whiteness, oftentimes based on a shared opposition to the greater racial underclass in America, the black people, who insisted on keeping them the ultimate racial underclass. So there are plenty of Latin people who are white passing. We don't even necessarily count like Hispanic as a different ethnicity. There are white Hispanic people in America. Our census has already acknowledged that for decades. It may well be the case that the Republicans are trying to leverage what it means to be a real American as a kind of adjacency to white supremacy. This is not the first time this has happened. How do you prove you're an American? Well, the Republican might say, you need to pay illegals, and you need to participate in all the systems of explicit and implicit white supremacy, and maybe we'll treat you like one of us, This has happened, it happened with the Italians and the Irish, who were discriminated against as a separate ethnic group, but when they were given the opportunity to move out of the tenements of New York and distinguish themselves from the black people who they used to live alongside, yes, Latino is a very wide category. Still, something worth keeping in mind. Urban voters had a 16-point bent, which is not great. Suburban voters only had a 6-point drop, which is not as much as other demographics here. The suburban areas are disproportionately Democrat-leaning relative to, previous estimates. The economic shift here is to be expected. Obviously, if you're a person of color or educated, you are more likely to vote Democrat, blah-de-blah. Wonderful, wonderful. This information is not particularly shocking. Save the fact that people who have a favorable view of neither party are overwhelmingly more likely to vote Republican, which tracks because the kind of people who would take a look at a, liberal party and a fascist party and go, they both suck, are probably themselves still fascist and pathetic. The classic centrist dilemma. Phenomenal stuff. Very great. What else do I have here in the open tabs? We've got this dipshit. I don't know if you guys caught wind of this, but the only reason the red wave didn't turn out is because a decent number of young people showed up to vote. The 18 to 29 demographic came out in like 26 points for Democrats. I mean, like a huge... Yeah, that's you guys! That's you! That's you guys! Literally, though. Yeah, PB22. All them fine folks who canvass and phone bank and what have you. That's you guys. And you voting, Yes. Student debt relief. It's actually good politics. Because people like it when you do good things. More hard-hitting political analysis coming up soon, okay? The Florida sweep here really is quite remarkable. How votes compare with 2020. In Miami County, in 2020, it went +7 Democrat, now DeSantis +11. Palm Beach, Democrat +13 to DeSantis +3. Hillsborough, D +9 to DeSantis, or D +7 to DeSantis +1. Yeah, you got the whole way through. I think if you look through this, you'll not find a single place where DeSantis did not do better than one would expect from looking at the results of the 2020 election, county by county. Republicans are moving there? That's true. I saw somebody say this, and I think it's perfectly valid. Now that we just need to accept the Cubans that live in Florida, stop trying to appeal to them, and the embargo on Cuba. There's literally no reason to keep it up now that every Cuban expat in Florida is like a card-carrying Nazi. You know, as long as all the Cubans have already decided to cleanse the world to pave way for the master race, then they might as well not continue this ridiculous embargo, just in the hopes that they'll stop being mad. Ohio is also a lost case for Democrats. Can Ryan have destroyed the Senate race there? Yeah, I didn't expect J.D. Vance to do that well, but yeah, Ohio does not seem to be a swing state anymore, whereas PA seems to be more reliably left-leaning. It's not just Cubans, but wealthy Latinos and Venezuelans that went to Miami. Yeah, well, that probably contributes a decent amount to the Republican Latin vote. Wait, do you believe that all Florida Cubans are expats from Castro's regime? Well, not now. The expat stuff was like 70 years ago, so a lot of them are their children, and like other people. It definitely contributes significantly to the political disposition of Cubans in Florida, though, yeah. Not like every single one of them. I didn't literally mean they're all card-carrying Nazis, but like, oh man, Florida. Florida. You don't want me to say unkind things about the political disposition of Florida, then maybe they shouldn't be jerking themselves raw, getting, casting their votes for the like, primo fascist guy moving forward in this country, you know? They could always not do that. Dems game trifectas in 4 states, including Michigan. That hasn't happened in 40 years. Yeah, we got a lot more local voter turnout, which is really, really awesome. That is 4 more states that, if more of the Harper goes through, those state legislators are not going to come out and immediately pass laws to just annul democracy within the borders. So that's good, you know? How do you think Nevada's going to swing with a tight race? I think Nevada will go to us, but, you know, never know, right? Regarding Latino shift towards the GOP, Hispanic India will drop the ball for messaging. Well, a lot of it is the, like, survivorship bias thing. Like, well, I got here legally. What about these guys, you know? And also, like, let's be clear. Democrats fucking suck at talking to minorities. They do. The mainstream Democratic establishment feels like they don't have to do anything for black people because black people are so solidly in their camp anyway. And for Latin people, you guys remember Hillary Clinton's, like, I'm your abuela, I always carry the bottle of hot sauce with me? That was, like, pure psychopath, man. That shit, that's a bigger deal than a lot of you fucking gringos give it credit for, you know? Can you imagine being, like, a Hispanic guy in America and, like the front runner Dem candidate is like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm like your hot sauce. Mama. Hachi. Hillary Clinton did all this on TV. It's pretty embarrassing, you know? Bosch and Jill Biden refer to Latino tacos. I'm always doing it. Jill Biden apologizes for calling Latino community unique as the breakfast tacos in San Antonio. Ah, yes. Right. Why I love Black America as firm and resounding as a deep-fried country steak. I don't know, something. Just imagine another racist thing. That was funny, though. Don't get me wrong, it is funny, but at the same time, can you understand why a lot of Latin people might feel kind of patronized here? Because it feels like the only messaging that Democrats are really willing to consistently, you know, push their way. At least Republicans are offering them some kind of out, right? You know, Republicans, the Faustian bargain with Republicans is basically, hey, if you join us in being really fucking racist, we might consider you white. That, you know, that sucks, but that is something. You know, that's at least an outreach strategy. Democrats are, I don't know. As a Latino teen in 2016, Hillary's hot sauce comments were instrumental in pushing me to the right-wing pipeline. I fucking hate Hillary so much. Holy shit. And the timeline where Hillary Clinton lost to Bernie in 2016 is a timeline where right now Florida is like a utopian blue state. Wasn't Bernie liked under Latino voters? They loved him. They fucking loved Bernie. Bernie Sanders was insanely popular with Latin voters in a way that Hillary never was, not even close. The insane thing is that, like, black people tend to vote more establishment Democrat candidates for complicated reasons that I've gotten into before. There were a lot of people during the primaries who were like, well, since black people seem to favor Hillary Clinton more, maybe that means that Bernie isn't viable, ignoring the fact that those black people would not have abstained from the fucking election if Bernie had won the primary. They still would have voted for Bernie because they're very consistent voters on average. Whereas the Latin people that Bernie did get did not all come out and vote for Hillary. So he captured a new demographic. Sorry, this was all 6 years ago. I'm being pulled back into, like, the time before it all went wrong. I worked on the Bernie campaign in Texas. We flipped the southern border blue. Yeah. Apparently, Beto O'Rourke actually got, like, the border counties in Texas pretty blue as well. So, you know, 2016 was 6 years ago. Yes, that is true. We do a 2015 nostalgia stream? No. Also, nostalgia's dumb. All points in time have sucked. Have the strength of will to understand this. Bosch, it's wild. I get this as a Democratic district where my state house candidate did not campaign, but a Republican opponent was going hard. She won by like 10%. Palm Beach Dems are old and complacent. I'm hoping they step aside, or at least we can speak with. Yeah, Democrat complacency. Yeah. Democrats are like, the energy of Democrats just can't match the, like, QAnon-fueled, every Republican thinks that FEMA death camps will be erected to kill all Christians and blah, 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 you know. So what can we do for Florida? Hudson the Gamer? Nothing. I'm sorry. I'm not here to sell you bullshit. Nothing. Forget about it. You kidding me? It's the stronghold right now for the modern Republican. Listen, just let the hurricanes take care of it, okay? You know, God is already trying to sink Florida. God doesn't need any help. Let it go. Let it go. Sorry, you want like kind words from me? You know, what if I live in Florida? Don't write me off. I'm not writing you off, dipshit. I'm writing Florida off. think you can do anything about it. Unless circumstances change enormously, then I don't think anything's going to change. You know, I mean, like, some significant stuff would have to change for it to even be remotely viable. Maybe you should get out of Florida if you can. I'm about to be hit by a hurricane tomorrow, Bosh. Well, there you go. Are you in Florida? How do you know it? Seems like a self-solving problem. To be fair, the Democrats are in Florida. Well, it's the Democrats. This is a jab at Destiny. Destiny lives in Florida? Jesus Christ, man. Went that a while ago. I guess it's just a symptom. Florida. How do you live in Texas? Am I correct? No. The just move argument is a way of dismissing real solutions to a problem by saying, oh, simply do not be where the problem is. I don't have any solutions for Florida. I'm not ignoring anything. If any of you have any brilliant political strategies for flipping a state, not only deeply red, but getting more red with time, also is currently procuring the next Führer of the United States. If you have any suggestions, I don't know, take a look at the mail bite. I don't know. Not good. Not good. What do you think of the likelihood of Warnock defeating Walker in the runoff? Yeah, another fucking Georgia extra election. This is going to be like the curse every year, okay? We get to have Warnock and Ossoff. However, we need to expend like $50 billion and a quarter of our lifespan just propping them up, just like holding them aloft like Atlas, you know? Georgia will remain blue if we give everything we have to keep it that way, you know? I guess we'll see, won't we? They're really close. Dylan Burns is heading to Georgia to help the runoff. Man, Dylan is such a goddamn giga chad. Is DeSantis going to be the next president 100%? Again, Moore v. Harper is really like the deciding factor here. If everything goes as I expect it will with Moore v. Harper, then DeSantis is going to be the likely presidential win in 2024. Though a lot of stuff can change, and a lot of factors can't really be accounted for. The Uvalde results are painful. Hell yeah, that's what yes. That's that Americana I like to see. Update, voters in Uvalde County, where the state's deadliest mass shooting happened 5 months ago, sparked calls for change in Texas government and gun reform, voted 22% in favor of Governor Greg Abbott over Beto O'Rourke, 60 to 38% final votes. That right there, that's Americana. That's perfect. It's beautiful. You capture that misery, but the people... Where's that clip? I should really have this as like a sound effect. I really should. I have one of those like gamer button pads.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded.
So true, King. So true. Oh, yeah, he phrases it so delicately. I love it. It never gets old. That guy was a lunatic. Yeah. I'm surprised he's not a politician. Hillary, Beto, or Russian. Oh, don't you dare slander my man Beto like that. I don't even like the guy. Putting him under Hillary? Oh, no. Beto is overconfident and really should not have gone so hard with gun stuff. But you'd have to put it to work to be worse than Hillary. You're not seeing the dancing Hillary? Dancing? I'm white. I don't know. Beto O'Rourke is an elbow. Don't hold him up, Vosh. It's that bad. I'm not holding him up. I just think Hillary's worse than him by a large margin.
While Candace is here, I feel like I can count on you to be with me about impeaching Biden immediately.
I am 100% on board. Biden immediately.
Candace already impeached. Hold, I just have one. I don't want to get too caught up on technicalities. For what?
Don't be ridiculous. It's a ridiculous question. Doesn't matter. Just impeach him.
Impeach him and we'll figure it out afterwards.
You got to impeach him to find out what you
That's exactly how it works.
Why do you guys want Kamala Harris so bad?
Honestly, I do. I think I do. Like I said before, I didn't.
I mean, they're being honest, right? It's just about raw political power. You know, it doesn't have to be a reason. That's it. Does that the cigars I feel so much pain? Does anyone else like? Holy, this is like so embarrassing to look at. Like Michael Knowles is like this wet diaper stuffed into a suit, and he's like deep throating the end of like they just whenever I get the whole like guy trying on his dad's boy trying on his dad's clothes vibe from somebody who does shit like this, I don't get it. It's they're trying so hard to look masculine, you know? Like Matty Walsh, Matty W does the same thing because he literally just looks like a soy wojak. At least he's like trying to do the confident lean, you know, because you can see he's putting effort into this, right? You know, Michael over here is being bold and daring with one leg crossed. But then Matt's going hard with one leg crossed plus leaning on one elbow against the arm of the chair. Very masculine. No, I don't want to play the Michael Knowles acting manipulation. Isn't it crazy how Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro are sitting right here next to each other when, like, 5 days ago, Candace Owens was praising Max Blumenthal's, like, open Jewish question posting, and Ben Shapiro was like, can we not do that? And Candace Owens was like, can you not be rude? It's just a little JQ posting. Like, come on. The funny thing is they probably hate each other now. Oh, that's conservative commentators for you, right? They're all like women. They're so catty. What do you think will happen with the AZ governor's race? AZ governor's race. AZ governor's race. Who gives a Listen, what about the fucking Oregon governor race? Oh my god. I live next to these people. And because of this stupid third-party split, 68% reporting, God almighty. We're 2% in favor for the Dems. Betsy Johnson and Cuxy Cuxon, more like 8.8% of person even left with besides looking like a librarian. Maybe they're pro. Considered a moderate conservative member of the state legislature. Wait, are they stealing votes from the conservatives? Wait, how bad is it over in Oregon? Oh, God. Remember what I said before about Oregon being 2 cities that are blue and then a state that's red? Remember when I said that? Look at this shit. Jesus Christ. It's all... That's why I say it's why I don't support the Oregon gun law, you know? Because all the people out here can already own guns. They're just getting ready to invade Portland when somebody rings the bell. Isn't that every state, though? Especially Oregon. Trust me, especially Oregon, okay? Oregon is uniquely like that. Filled with Nazi cults. Oregon barely outlawed slavery. Yeah. Tennessee outlawed slavery. That's nice. I believe that makes them the 4th state to do this. It's only 46 more states to go, and we'll finally be rid of slavery in the United States. Yeah, here we go. Alabama, Tennessee, Vermont, Oregon remove slavery loopholes in the Constitution. Louisiana does. So Louisiana wants to keep the slavery. So that's cool. Like the 14th Amendment? Yeah, see, slavery's legal in America. As long as they're a prison. And it's legal. 13th, sorry. The amendment specifically says neither slavery nor indentured servitude, except as the time wherever the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to jurisdiction. I love my Constitution. I love our Constitution. It's so great. Let's abolish slavery. But, like, maybe it's okay if, like, they smoke some weed or, like, shoplift at a Snickers bar? Yeah, okay. Slavery a go-go. How else are we going to get people to die of smoke inhalation while fighting California forest fires? Huh? See this GOP here going apeshit against people? I feel like going apeshit might be a bit of an overstatement. Yes, I'm familiar with Bridget Gabriel's tweets, because Gen Z did very well for us. I do like how for the past like 5 or 6 years I've had to hear, every single year I hear this from you guys. I hear this from everyone. Gen Z is finally fed up with woke nonsense. I hear this all the young people are finally shifting right. Take a look at this one TikTok where a guy makes a joke about women with purple hair, and then you take a look at every fucking bit of data we have available, and young people are overwhelmingly progressive and left-leaning compared to every other group. So, never mind. Just the same fake news ass story every 18 minutes. Weed is now legal in Missouri and Maryland. Yeah. Does that mean Democrats have a better future if younger generations are overwhelmingly Gen Z? Well, it's not bad. Yes, the first Gen Z person. This guy's on the Justice Democrats, isn't he? First Gen Z person in the House. Chilling. Younger than me? Frost, 25. Beat Republican Calvin Windish, a retired 72-year-old Army Green Beret. Ha, get loser. Haha. Go re-enlist. Go fall off a landing vessel. You're sent to go murk some former insurgent. Good shit. Loser. What is this other thing? What's the other thing about? Are you Gen Z or young millennial? Technically, I'm a young millennial. Can we beat the fashion simply by outliving boomers? No. That copium has been around for decades, and I just don't work. Do not recommend that. I want to see if there are any people who are getting real normal in the comments of the YouTube video that I recorded while drunk last night. Just a second. Many people here being exceptionally... Bosch last night, renew your passport and ready to cruise in machine. Bosch now, everything is quite well. No! These aren't contradicting statements. No, don't fall for it. No! Don't, wow, we didn't completely lose the legislator overnight. I guess all that other stuff that Bosch mentioned is null now. Stop! Last night, Bosch, get your passport ready. Today, Bosch, I'm not feeling keep my death. No! Oh! They don't get it! I specifically said that the conditions are laid out in the media apparatus in the Supreme Court. I was so insistent that we've only bought time. I kept saying, even if things go well, we've only bought time. You guys are like fucking climate change deniers, where I say the planet's warming up and you're like, then why is it snowing outside? Oh my god, 680 likes? Seriously? Watch most of the stream last night. I was to process getting a passport looking jobs in Canada. But I'm on Saturday. See, somebody's taking this shit seriously. Maybe that's it. Thank you for reinforcing my pessimistic and fatalistic doomerism about the future despite this wonderful life for Democrats by reminding me of the apocalypse. Hey, sure. I'm gonna keep repeating this shit. Make sure everyone. It seems some chatters don't realize that valid passports is just a good thing to have. I can't, you know. Do you think people without college degrees that have that I can't say getting a passport? I can't answer that. I can't say. No, I can't answer that. How is we bought time different from the inevitability we call doomerism? Okay, we're gonna do this one more time. Doomerism is a mentality counterproductive to withdrawing from the situation to preserve your emotional state. It's distancing yourself, okay? Recognizing unfortunate occurrences or probabilities is not being doomed. And saying that we bought time is not saying you can do nothing. For instance, you can make the radical decision to live. Sometimes, in the worst case scenarios, living might require a little bit of extra effort on your part. You know, life gets complicated sometimes. I'm only saying you have to recognize, tell me, does barely holding on to, maybe, barely holding on to the Senate, does that fix the problems that I talked about? Does that change the fact that portions of the country are skewing heavily Republican? Does that change the gerrymandering? Does that change the Electoral College? Does that change the conservative Supreme Court or Morby Harper? Does it change any of these things? Does it change the fact that there was an assassination attempt on the third person in line to the presidency just a week ago, and Republicans immediately responded by making a joke of it, indicating not only that they don't care that it happens, but they want it to happen again and more successfully? Does that change any of this? Oh, guys, more like a red fart. No reason for us to, you know, do some basic personal upkeep like making sure our passport's up to date, something you should have been doing anyway, you children. Oh, no. No. We're fine. Rather than doing miserably these midterms, instead, we only barely held on by the thread of our sleeve. You know, we're in a great position. Please. Nobody knows the future. Doesn't hurt to prepare for possible negative outcomes. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Washington, are you conceding it's impossible to save American democracy? No. I never said that. I'm saying keep your passport up to date. Wash, I love you. I don't know. I don't have enough brain cells to fully deal. Well, I think a lot of people might not realize we're talking about fixing strategy. I'm not telling anyone to flee. I'm telling you to keep your passport up to date. Maybe look into other. Okay, you know how your parents said you should always keep like a tire jack and a spare in your car? You know? Now I've done that my entire adult life. You know how many times I've needed to use it? 0 times. I have never in my life used a tire jack outside of somebody telling me this I use a tire jack. Never used it in a practical situation. Maybe I never will. But I don't regret having it. Have I ever defended myself against a burglary or anything like that? No. But I own 9 guns. Clearly, I am someone who values reparation as a concept. It's not a bad thing to believe in. Have a flashlight in case there's an earthquake. Have water in your garage or storage area in case something goes wrong. Have canned beans. It's good to prepare. And having your passport updated is something that you can do. If I say, hey, you know, keep a spare and a tire jack in your car, am I saying to you that you have no way of preventing a flat tire? That you can drive responsibly, avoid the sharp nails or whatever on the road, avoid getting into an accident, making sure your tires are upkept so that they don't ever get flat? No. You can still address the situation in a variety of ways, and I can't predict the future. But it is good to make sure. And I have made 2 simple recommendations. Good advice under any circumstance. I will continue to insist on this. I will insist on this until it is no longer funny. I will run out of synonyms with which to describe these suggestions. You will tire hearing me. I will repeat it over and over. It will get boring to you, but I insist. Save money and make sure your passport is renewed. That's it. Derive from those suggestions any degree of implicit pessimism you like. It's a good thing to have no matter what. Please. Okay. I understand nuance and makes sense to be prepared, but no one has given a solution for preventing fascism. If I had one, I would give it to you. Would you rather I abstain from providing solutions to keep you alive? Should I not give you some good advice until I have all good advice? You furiously overestimate my intelligence. If I had a solution to the rising tide of fascism, I'm sure you know I would let you know. Do you think there is a solution, or are you saying you specifically don't have it? There's always a theoretical solution. There are potential solutions. But I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, Pepe toasting? Ooh, TOS? No, because that's not going to make a difference. Whenever I say I think it's valuable to be prepared for the worst, that preparation is about survival. Because survival in adversarial circumstances is a victory. Survival when people in power want you gone is a victory. You're winning when you stay around. Even if sometimes it means having to leave. Or hide who you are for short periods of time. Be deceptive. Living, when the odds are against you, is admirable. You want to know what really could be done? It would come down to the Democratic Party and the Army. You have no control over it. And if you'll recall, all the streams of mine that you have watched, at any point, no matter what, whenever I talk about this, what do I say? The principled ownership of firearms can be useful in case militias ever attack you or the people in your community. And the best way to prevent that from happening is to know the people around you. Engage in community preparedness. You might note that what I am describing here is not a fascism prevention strategy. It's a fascism survival strategy. The world is a hell of a lot bigger than what can we do to stop this from happening. I'm not the president, and neither are any of you. If Biden wanted to, he could take actions to significantly reduce the likelihood of all of this happening. The military, as always, has the ultimate authority in deciding the future of this country. We don't control these systems. I'm trying to give you guys advice that is scaled to the listeners. You are just people. I am just people. So when I suggest things, I'm trying to suggest things that are actionable, understandable, and reasonable. Because otherwise, I mean, if you guys want like a bullshit lefty answer, okay. Through community organizing and by radicalizing the working class, by spreading class consciousness, fascism will never prevail.
That will do it for Thursday's trading session. Let's take a look at how the major indices ended the day. A bumper day. We saw that CPI print there lifting all boats. The Dow ending up the day 1,198 points, up almost 4% there. S&P 500 up more than 5.5% at 200 points. And the tech-heavy NASDAQ up about 7.33% there, 760-point gain.
Is Thursday, the 10th of November. This is a recap for the stock market activities today. Folks, I got a good one for you tonight. What a day, what a day, what a day. Absolute lunacy. In reaction to the CPI, which did not go down by that much, by the way, and a lot of categories went higher. We'll talk about that in a second. But in reaction to the cooked numbers from the CPI, the market decided to rally significantly higher. It was one of the biggest financial orgasms in history. It was felt here in planet Earth all the way to Uranus. And folks, in days like this, time is of the essence. So let's not waste any more time and dive right into it. And here it is, in focus tonight. WTF. When delusion takes over rationale, it's time to get out. Today in the morning, we got the CPI report, and the number was 7.7% year over year and 6.3% year over year, excluding the non-important food and energy, of course. And hey, inflation's down to 7.7%. It's over, right? Inflation's gone. Poof. It's not like back in the 70s, we haven't seen dips in inflation, only for it to go higher again. Oh, we haven't seen that before. If we cover that part of the chart. But folks, as I say all the time, the devil is always in the details. We'll talk about that in a second. But the market shot up significantly higher in reaction to the CPI report. The Dow Industrial Average closed the day with gains of almost 1,200 points. The Nasdaq scored gains of over 7% in a single day. The dollar suffered the worst day since March 2009. The stock market is acting as if this is the bottom. Stocks across the board shot up significantly higher. Among them, Mama Cathy Wood, which shot up higher, scoring gains of over 14%, the best day ever. The most shorted stocks shot up higher by 11%, one of the most violent rallies ever. And the Nasdaq is now pricing in interest rate cuts by early next year. It's over, folks. The bottom is here. The bear market is over. We're done. And of course, we should have seen this coming from a million miles away since Jim Cramer gave the kiss of death to the bears by announcing yesterday that growth stocks could see more horror after CPI data release. The inverse Cramer ETF spot on once again. So what is the fuss all about? Is inflation really over? It's gone, right? The good professor from Wharton, Jeremy Siegel, came out today and said that inflation's done. It's over. It's officially done. Same guy, by the way, who missed the dot-com bubble, who said back in 2008 that we're going to have a good year in stocks, who missed 2018, missed the bottom in 2020, claimed that inflation is transitory until he changed his mind. A little too late, of course. So of course, he got a great track record here when he says that inflation is over. It's gone. But look at this. What categories went down month over month? Number one, pipe, utility, gas services down 4.6% month over month. And used cars, no surprise here. Everybody knows that used cars prices have been going down. Nothing to see here. Down 2.4%. Who cares? Airline fares down 1.1%. Fruits and vegetables down 0.9%. Apparel down 0.7%. And dairy down 0.1% month over month. On the other hand, fuel oil up almost 20% month over month. Gasoline up 4% month over month. Vehicle insurance up 1.7%. Food away from home, cereal, bakery, alcoholic beverages, rent, motor vehicle maintenance and repair, meats, non-alcoholic beverages, new vehicles, all items, even the core CPI. Everything went higher month over month. But hey, used cars prices are down. Inflation is over. And folks, we know what this is all about. You got the money managers. They all took mortgages they cannot really afford. They all took car loans they cannot really afford. They all promised the mistress a Christmas gift they cannot really afford. And now it has been a bad year for them. The market is down big. No bonuses, baby. But you got the fourth quarter. Why do you think that we always have a Santa rally? It's because the money managers use the client money and they pump the market higher to score the bonuses. They're sending your money in like they're sending sheep to the slaughter. And of course, when the market goes down later on, they say, whoops, we thought it's the bottom. It looked good back then. But who gives a shit about your money? They got their bonuses. That's all what it really is. And folks, look at this delusion by the bulls. A couple of weeks ago, it was, hey, the economy is so bad, we have a recession risk. Mr. Powell has to pivot. And Mr. Powell came out and said, how about you guys off? There is no pivot. What are you talking about? Inflation's too hot. And before that, it was, oh, earnings are not that bad. The market can handle all of these Fed rate hikes. No problem here. That did not work out once we got earnings, and they were abysmal. So now they flipped to the old script of, the soft landing is back. Inflation is peaking. Peak inflation. And the jobs market is holding. As if we've never heard this before. The same story, deja vu, summer 2022, June, you know the story. And the problem with the move we got today is, it was a massive gap higher. It was an algorithmic reaction. The robots went haywire the moment the CPI came out. They looked at one number. The estimate was core CPI 0.4% month over month. It came out light at 0.3%. Immediately, the dollar got sold like you've never seen before, and the futures shot up to the moon. Okay, so I'm supposed to chase the move when Amazon opens up by 9% and the premiums for calls are sky high? How about no thanks? We can't do that. We missed the opportunity. So who's doing the pumping here? It's the quant funds, the algorithmic funds, the robots. They did the heavy lifting here. And of course, when the mom and pops see the action, by the afternoon, they jump in. What do you know? What they're doing is basically fighting the Fed. Folks, we have two classic mistakes in investing and trading. Mistake number one is fighting the Fed. So these mom and pops get sucked in, and then the Fed comes out days later and says, you know what? This move is not warranted. We're going to do 75 in December. They have to come out and say that because they cannot afford to let financial conditions loosen again. What do you know? The mom and pops get slaughtered. Same old, same old. This is mistake number one. Fighting the Fed. Never fight the Fed. When the Fed says no pivot, it's too premature to talk about a pause. And oh, by the way, we need financial conditions to stay tight for as long as possible for us to see the reflection in the real economy. And the market says, la, 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 I can't hear you. I'm going to do my thing. The CPI went a tick down. And that's it. It's over. Inflation is over. I don't care what the Fed's going to say. They're going to pivot. That's what the market is doing. Fighting the Fed. And if you're not sure what the Fed said last time around, here's Jerome Powell himself explaining to you that there is not going to be a pivot. You guys are out of your minds. Take a look.
The historical record cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy. We will stay the course until the job is done.
Thank you. Colby Smith with the Financial Times. On the need to slow the pace of rate increases at some point, is a downshift contingent on a string of better inflation data specifically between now and, let's say, the December meeting? Or is that something that the Fed could potentially proceed with independent of that data, given the lag effects that you mentioned?
So a couple things on that. We do need to see inflation coming down decisively, and good evidence of that would be a series of down monthly readings. Of course, that's what we'd all love to see, but I've never thought of that as the appropriate test for slowing the pace of increases or for identifying the appropriately restricted level that we're aiming for. We need to bring our policy stance down to a level that's sufficiently restricted to bring inflation down to a 2% objective over the medium term. How will we know that we've reached that level? Well, we'll take into account the full range of analysis and data that bear on that question, guided by our assessment of how much financial conditions have tightened, the effects that tightening is actually having on the real economy and on inflation, taking into consideration lags, as I mentioned. We will be looking at real rates, for example, all across the yield curve and all other financial conditions as we make that assessment.
Hi, Howard Schneider with Reuters. Look, I'm sure there's going to be tons of confusion out there about whether this means you're going to slow in December or not. But would you say that the bias right now is not for another 75 basis point increase?
So What I want to do is put that question of pace in the context of our broader tightening program, if I may, and to talk about the statement language along the way. So I think you can think about our tightening program as really addressing 3 questions. The first of which was, and has been, how fast to go. The second is how high to raise our policy rate. And the third will be eventually how long to remain at a restricted level.
So the take here is, he says, we want to see inflation readings going down, not just one report, but multiple ones. That would be nice to see. But even if that happens, it's not going to be the reason why the Fed is going to pivot or slow down the rate of interest rate hikes. He's looking at financial conditions. And right now, every time the stock market rallies, financial conditions loosen. You see, if the reading is above 0, financial conditions are tight. But if the reading is below 0 or trending down, it means financial conditions are loosening. This is from the Chicago Fed. We now see financial conditions loosening again. And our financial conditions really tight enough when the CPI goes down a tick and we see an insane rally in the stock market? Is that really an indicator that financial conditions are tight? Of course not. If anything, it provides proof to the Fed that financial conditions need to be tightened even more. On top of that, when we talk about inflation expectations and the sentiment in the market and the economy, when folks are talking about another round of stimmies to fight inflation, when people are swiping their credit cards up and down, up and down, up and down, with no care at all, when they think that their jobs are in the bag, and on top of that, hey, the government will issue a new round of stimmies, is this sentiment an indicator of tighter financial conditions or loose financial conditions? And of course, fighting the Fed is a major mistake because the higher the stock market goes, the more insane this rebound is. The Fed will have to come out being even more hawkish. And today they gave it a shot. Immediately when they saw the market reaction, they came out with the warnings. Take a look.
The Kansas City Fed president looked at the inflation numbers this morning and said monetary policy clearly has more work to do. She said inflationary pressures have yet to let up. Monetary policy and financial conditions must continue to tighten, according to Esther George, joining others, by the way, who have made similar comments in the wake of that better than expected inflation report. She goes on to say higher inflation expectations point to a need for considerably higher rates, and that the impetus for inflation has changed from being initially about moved by goods prices. Now it's moved by tight labor markets. She's seeing a little bit of help there, Brian. Some early indications she says the labor markets might be cooling. And the one somewhat dovish thing she says, but this goes back a ways. She says that a more measured approach to rate increases may be particularly useful. She had been opposed to those 75s, but clearly Esther George, who's long been hawkish, continues to be so, and sees a need for higher rates, as have several other Fed speakers today, Brian. But that has had little impact, it would appear, on the market.
And of course, the market decided to ignore all of that. Esther George, Neil Kashkari, Mr. Even Davey came out today warning that, hey, this is just one report. Don't make a big deal out of it. But the market again is fighting the Fed. So if you want to jump on the wagon and chase the rally, watch out for the Fed coming out and killing the rally again. Mistake number 2, fighting the herd. Mistake number 1, fighting the Fed. Mistake number 2 is fighting the herd. You fight the Fed by following the herd, and you fight the herd by betting against them. So if you're going to say, okay, you know what, these morons know nothing at all, the robots went haywire, and I'm going to double down on puts right now, that could be a painful journey because you have no idea when this move is going to stop. So what are you saying here, Maverick? You're saying don't fight the Fed, meaning don't chase the rally, but don't fight the herd, don't bet against them. So what do? How about when delusion takes over rationale, it's time to step back? How about you step back? The indicators say, if you look at the dollar, if you look at yields, if you look at the VIX, the indicators say this mania could continue for a few more days, if not weeks, until something put a stop to it. My hunch is the higher it goes, the higher the likelihood that the Fed will come out and issue a statement. One of these Fed zombies will come out and say something really, really hawkish to kill the rally. But in the meantime, do you really want to hold the bag betting against this insanity? Not really, not me. So what does that mean? Maverick, I'm holding the bag and puts already. Do I average down? Do I roll to another expiration date? What do I do here? I'll leave that decision to you. But again, if you're going to average down in a losing trade, you're fighting the herd. If you're going to extend the expiration date, you're betting that you know when the reversal is going to happen, but you don't. So the easiest way is buck up and take the loss. Of course, you could wake up in the morning tomorrow and we see the futures down 500, 600 because something happened. But the indicators, Dixie, gold, VIX, 10-year yield, all of them indicate that this has more room to go. I don't want to fight it. I'd rather take the loss right now and step aside and watch the shit show. Grab a big bag of popcorn and watch the massacre as the herd continues to pile in. In the meantime, if you got FOMO, if you don't want to miss out on the rally or perhaps maybe a pullback coming in some of these insane rallies that we got, here's what you do. You know what happens when the dollar goes down. Commodities move higher, but specifically metals, oil, chips, these names shoot up higher. When yields go down, what goes higher? Home builders, real estate, utilities, and technology. So you can buy calls in these names and chase the move higher. Have at it if you want to do that. But keep in mind the call options are getting really, really expensive. On the other hand, if you want to bet to the downside on something, how about you bet to the downside on 2 things. Number 1, Tesla, the souffle. You know why? Because it doesn't matter if we have a dead cat bounce in the souffle. It's an opportunity to short because the name's going to go down big again. Because the genius, Elon Musk, he now warns Twitter employees that they might file for bankruptcy next year. Twitter will file for bankruptcy next year. Wait a minute here. This guy just spent, what, $54 billion to buy this company and now it's bankrupt already? What's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on. The company has no cash. That is the surprise that Elon Musk is finding right now. The advertisers are gone. There is no revenue to finance this operation. So he has to finance it out of his pocket, meaning he has to dump shares of Tesla. Every time Tesla pops higher, Elon is going to take that as an opportunity to dump in your little heads. So when I keep my Tesla puts, I have Elon in my side. And that's a big win. But what ally do I have in my, say, Microsoft puts? I don't have anything. That thing could go higher. So I have to get out. The other thing that I'm keeping the puts on, maybe doubling down, is anything related to tulips. Coinbase, MicroTrageedy, you know the deal. These things are going to blow up. Any pop is an opportunity to short. Why do we say that? Because FTX is going to blow up. Nobody's going to save FTX here. This story is way bigger than anybody anticipated. It turns out that Sam Bankrupt Fried has been playing with the client's cash. He tapped into customers' cash and used that cash for risky bets. He went to the casino. He used that cash to fund his failed Alameda research. This guy's going to jail, and nobody's going to bail him out. Of course, he came out today and said he's sorry. He and dude, what are you doing here? Some lawyer, for the love of God, should reach out to this guy and say, keep your mouth shut. What are you doing here? You're admitting guilt to millions of people? Do you have any idea how big that tsunami of lawsuits that is coming your way? Keep your mouth shut. And of course, Sam goes out and begs for $4 billion to bail out his company. When he says 4, he means 7. And guess what? Nobody's going to bail him out here. Nobody. Because this is a criminal case. You're not going to bail out a criminal. So what we have to do right now is hold hands and brace for impact. Because this thing's going to blow up within days, and cryptos will go bust. Companies like Coinbase, MicroTrageedy will go bust. So I'm keeping these 2 shorts, Tesla and tulips for now. Other shorts, I'm out for now. Except, of course, the ones with longer expiration dates. We're talking in 2023, deep into 2023, and they're closer to the money. Those I can hold because the losses are not that big. But anything out of the money with shorter expiration date, my advice is you might be hoping that something's going to happen tomorrow and we might get a massive down day. We're back on track, baby. But what if that doesn't happen? All indicators for now saying it's not going to happen. So if you have puts with shorter expiration date and you're out of the money, take the loss. Take the loss, step aside, watch the show, and wait for the reversal to happen. This is what I'm going to do right now. Because these delusional maniacs really believe that this is the bottom. This is it. It's over. Something's going to hit them. And this thing could be, inflation is actually going higher, meaning the Fed will come out even more hawkish and caution the market not to take it too far. Or it could be something relating to the financial risk or the upcoming recession, such as something blowing up. Of course, if that happens, the bulls are going to switch to, Mr. Proud has to pivot now because we have financial risk and the economy is about to head into a recession. And 2 minutes ago, you said, we're going to have a soft landing. And inflation is peaking. It's delusion. It's stupidity. It doesn't make sense. Again, 2 classic mistakes happening at the same time. Fighting the Fed and fighting the herd. Rather step back and watch the show. Watch who's going to win in this battle. Is it going to be these delusional maniacs assuming this is the bottom and going all in? Or is it going to be the Fed because they're fighting each other? The market is making it harder for the Fed to fight inflation. The Fed will have to come out even more aggressive. So they go tit for tat. It's going to be a painful ride here. The volatility is good, but can you really call the direction day to day? That's the challenge here. And folks, we're going to talk about this a little more on the charts analysis. Before we do that, how about we see how the indices closed today? And here we go. The Dow Industrial Average closing in the green by 1,201.43 points, or a gain of 3.70%.
unbelievably consistent, high quality
I would say that Nintendo still puts out bangers on a regular basis. I think that a handful of these companies still actually do perform pretty well.
Rockstar, Blizzard, these guys used to release nothing but classics. Sadly, that consistency is gone, and the continued support of anti-consumer practices in the gaming industry is largely to blame. Video game betas used to be free events where developers briefly released an incomplete build of the game in order to collect data and feedback and polish it for its imminent release. With time, this concept has evolved into charging money for or implementing monetization into incomplete games under the label of early access, which promises to add more content.
I have no problem with games that are early access, but it does make me skeptical whenever I don't see progress in the game. Like, there are some games that early access is really good for them. Like, the great example of a game that early access was good for was Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors had early access, and you could play the game early, and then it just recently came out into its version, and now the game is out. PUBG was a bad example of early access because it was just bad forever, and then it randomly got pushed out into being released. But let's be honest, it was just because Microsoft pressured them into doing that because it was the holiday season. So yeah, early access can definitely be a get-out-of-jail-free card whenever you have a shit game.
And complete them someday. This approach is understandable for smaller development teams.
Yeah, Valheim, keep in mind, Valheim, the original development team was 5 people. Now they've expanded, and I think they're at 7.
Lack funds needed to execute their true vision for the game. But when AAA gaming corporations adopt this model, it comes off as an excuse to reap the rewards of releasing a full game without actually putting the effort into cultivating one. Yes.
I don't have a problem with them releasing a game early if people want to buy it. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal as long as the expectations are met later on.
Fortnite's baby. The Battle Pass is an assortment of in-game items earned with time played and challenges completed. It doesn't cost money to score a portion of the rewards, but the paid premium version is the best. Fortnite is a free-to-play game, so
I have nothing against Battle Passes. I know this might upset some of the boomers that watch me. I don't think there's anything wrong with Battle Passes at all, and I think people are being unreasonable when they're talking about them.
Guys, to incentivize the player to purchase V-Bucks, the in-game currency used to buy cosmetics such as skins and emotes in the shop. The Battle Pass not only includes these things, but more V-Bucks than it costs to buy the premium version. In fact, even the free version gives you a few buckaroos. The catch to all this is that it only lasts for an in-game season, usually around 10 to 12 weeks. Many games imitate this model of monetization, but bundle for versions that make the player and better for the Overwatch 1 was Blizzard's last good game before the company's reputation began to collapse. Plenty of...
I think Legion was, Oh, it's me! It's me again! What did this guy do? Did he look up on YouTube Blizzard bad? No wonder I'm on here twice.
Videos have already been made covering this topic. I'll link you some videos. The game felt polished and complete, but the flawed progression system foreshadowed sinful practices to come. Basically, there were tons of heroes, and each one had dozens of cosmetics. The only way to unlock anything was through loot boxes, which were earned with match performance, time played, or bought with real-life money.
Wow.
What sucks about loot boxes is that everything received is random, so there's no guarantee that you'll get anything you shoot. A currency was implemented to mitigate this issue, but was also randomly required for loot boxes.
Yeah, whenever you got dupes.
Despite the shady loot box system, the game was actually updated quite frequently for years, with balance patches, seasonal events, new heroes, maps, game modes, and cosmetics, all for free. Ish. These updates came with videos with the previous and beloved lead director,
Jeff from the Overwatch team.
explaining the philosophy behind every change being made into the game. However, for the last 3 years or so of the game's lifespan, Blizzard pretty much abandoned the game entirely, choosing instead to focus on it. First of all, this game is not a sequel. Everyone's saying it, and I'm saying it again. It's clear that the title of this game is a marketing ploy to entice people to try it out, where they will be...
I think that's fine. And also, the reason why Overwatch is so high on Twitch is because it has drops. That's the reason why. It's not because of the quality of the game. Take drops out of Overwatch 2 and its position is going to go down substantially. And it's also free to play.
Saying it again. It's clear that the title of this game is a marketing ploy to entice people to try it out, where they will be constantly reminded of the new monetization structure that this game fully exists.
Shut up! Shut up!
Overwatch 1, a game that costed up to $60 for some people, was completely shut down, and its replacement is an early access, free-to-play game that desperately wants you to buy its new battle pass. Alright, let's look at this shit. First level. Oh, cool, you get Kiriko first level, right? Nah, bitch. Premium only. The only reason I have this chick is because I played Overwatch 1, and then
I didn't even know any of this. I didn't know any of this. I didn't play, like, I just logged on. I don't even have a battle pass. I don't know what my battle pass progress is. There was a Roadhog skin that I got in the beta of Overwatch 1, and he has like a shark head or something. And then there was also, like, I had a bunch of the tickets, and I bought a Reinhardt skin. It was red, so I thought the red one was cool. And that's about it. But you're all for it? Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. Because the game is free, and I'm sorry, I think that the fact that the reason why people were okay spending money on the game before is because they were doing it in $1 at a time. Free? It's not, quote, free. It is free. In every definition of the word, Overwatch 2 is a free game. At least the PvP is, not the PvE, to be fair. It is a free game. I think that anybody who's trying to act like it's not is being completely disingenuous. Yeah, it's not free. I paid for Overwatch 1. I mean, I don't think that really makes sense. So like you're saying, like, yeah, I don't agree with that. It's the same game. I think that they've made a substantial amount of updates to Overwatch 2. Obviously, it's been changed a pretty good amount. And I will say that not having the loot boxes does really show people how much these things really cost. Because back in the day, somebody would buy 50 fucking loot boxes to get a $26 skin, and each loot box is $1. But because they were doing it $1 at a time, they didn't realize how much money they were burning. That's what it was. Yeah, it's gambling, and it's amazing that people are complaining about loot boxes and wanting loot boxes back whenever loot boxes made them spend more money and they didn't even realize it. You're in boxes? Yeah, some of the boxes were in. I'm actually, by the way, I am totally okay with loot boxes if you can't buy them for real money. So like if you made loot boxes in Overwatch 2 again and you couldn't buy them for real money, you just got them in the game, I am totally okay with it. But I think that in no shape or form should you ever be able to buy something in a video game that has an uncertain outcome. You should always know exactly what you are buying. Exactly what you're buying. That's the thing, they didn't realize they were losing so much money. Yeah, exactly. Overwatch loot boxes are pretty good free to play. Well, they couldn't be good free to play because you had to buy the game.
They gave it to Overwatch 1 players. That's cool, I guess. But for everybody else, here she is, level 55. This Reddit user shared their free-to-play experience, and it took them 49 hours of gameplay to unlock this new hero. Some have compared the system to games like Apex Legends. And yes, Legends and Apex are also locked upon release. But the difference is that you're able to earn currency to unlock them by playing the game at any time. So you could play a lot in one season and acquire enough currency to unlock multiple Legends in the future.
Yeah, I think that Overwatch 2 should definitely do that. Like, yeah, they should 100% fucking do that. They should make it to where you can build up the currency to unlock the things whenever they come out as a free-to-play player. Because it just sucks whenever you know, it makes a lot of people not excited for the game whenever they know that the only way you can get this thing is if you buy a battle pass or you do some bullshit like that. So yeah, I'm really not a fan of that. I think that's what a lot of these other games do, is that they allow people, like I'm pretty sure in League of Legends you can build up currency ahead of time, so whenever a new character comes out you can immediately buy it without actually spending money. And that's the same thing with Apex, etc. So I don't really see why Overwatch 2 doesn't do that. It just seems like something that would be better for the game. Because also, like, you have to keep in mind, for everybody who doesn't want to spend money, most people will not want to buy a battle pass to test out a character. It's just, people probably just don't want to do that. So every time that you, like, if you do a new release, because a new character comes out, and then people don't want to buy the battle pass to unlock the character, well then all of those people, the marketing is effectively useless on them because they're not actually going to come back to the game because you could have barely eventually, or it's not something that they're willing to go over.
Blizzard now confines heroes to the battle pass. You cannot even begin to progress toward unlocking them until they're already available to play. Additionally, a key component of Overwatch gameplay is hero swap, or change into your playing as mid-match. This means that you're at a significant disadvantage by not always having access to every hero in the game. Let's look at other stuff in the battle pass. So see this little icon by my name? That's what these are.
I don't care about this. I don't care about any cosmetic in the game, minus something like the Rose skin in Warzone that's effectively a combat advantage, or like the ghillie suit in BDO that's effectively a combat advantage. I do not care. I don't care about it in PoE. I don't care about it in any of these games. If you are playing a free game, you should not expect to get cosmetics for free also. This is unreasonable.
Cool, nobody gives a fuck. Here's a name card, and new type of cosmetic advantages. One cool feature of these is that if you equip one, you're not allowed to unequip it. And then the ultimate tier is Genji, the new mythic skin that took a year to make. Remember that, guys, it took a year to make. The two biggest sins of this battle pass are locking the new hero behind it and not giving you any currency back. So basically they copied something, but they made it shitty.
Yeah, that's definitely stupid. Like, I don't know why they would do that. It makes no sense to me. Yeah, like, why make a worse version of something?
God damn, look at this. It speaks volumes to the pathetic state of their new system that players are grieving the removal of loot boxes.
Yeah, it's sad.
Loot boxes. One of the most notorious monetization schemes ever contrived.
Yep.
Overwatch 2 intentionally removed the leveling system so that the sole form of progression is the battle pass. Remember those seasonal events from...
I was wondering whatever happened to that. Like, I didn't really think about it ever because it's like, who gives a fuck? But, yeah, I never really thought about it. But, yeah, I was wondering, I don't get levels anymore. No. That's crazy.
Well, all of those previously released seasonal cosmetics are no longer unlockable for free. You must purchase them with their new currency, Overwatch. Before we even get into the skins, let's take a look at the price of the coins themselves. The pricing of their coins is already a great representation of their insatiable greed. If you get the discount from buying $50 worth of coins,
it is really fucking disgusting. Like, every other gacha game, every other fucking game gives you 20% off whenever you drop a Benjamin. Whenever you put $100 in the game, you're supposed to get 20% more tickets. And Blizzard and those greedy fucks are only giving you 16. Yeah, they need to change that. That is disgusting. There's not even any first-time purchase bonuses, I'm pretty sure. These fuckers don't know anything.
Skin costs about $18. If you get the discount from buying $32 worth of V-Bucks, this skin with 4 styles, a back bling, a pickaxe, a glider, and a wrap for your weapons and vehicles costs about $13. So not only are Fortnite skins significantly cheaper,
and you can also fucking see them because it's third person.
They have more innate value through the game's third person experience.
Totally true. I completely agree with that. Very smart insight.
Always able to see them, and the fact that they're not tied to specific.
Yeah.
Apparently this, plus this, plus this, is more as if this wasn't enough of a first time. The amount and quality of base cosmetics for the 3 new heroes in the game is boo-boo. Overwatch 2 would have had enough stuff and probably would have quality of type and system. I guess I'll talk about the actual game now. How is it different from Overwatch 1? Well, here's a good way to describe it. This is Risk of Rain 1. This is Risk of Rain 2. This is Overwatch 1.
No, I think that's Overwatch 2, actually.
This is Overwatch 2.
Oh.
Blizzard's original intention of calling it Overwatch 2 was the new PvE mode.
Yes, that's not out right now. I will also say that, yeah, it's pretty much the same game. I think that for a lot of people, like, this is something I've heard. I don't know if XQC has said this. I know Charlie said this. Moist Critical said this. I've said this. I think the gameplay in Overwatch 2 is pretty good. I do. I think overall it's pretty good. Yeah, I feel like most people that I've talked to about this game have thought it was an improvement over what Overwatch 1 is.
Which was
irrelevant if everything else is bad? No, it's the opposite. Everything else is irrelevant if the gameplay is good. Everything else can be bad, but if the gameplay is good, nothing else matters.
Yet the game still launched. Siegel made a great video on this. I'll link you. I'm not holding back from judging this game in its current state. The early access label is not some magical shield to protect AAA corporations from releasing mediocrity.
Well, apparently.
Especially for this game, since they completely removed the previous and arguably superior one. Put simply, every change in...
I feel like arguably superior. I think some people feel that way about the cosmetics and everything. But personally, I feel like everybody who I've talked to has considered Overwatch 2 an improvement. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just talking to the wrong people, but yeah, I feel like everybody has said it's been an improvement.
Overwatch 2 could have been patched in the first game. I do like some of them, but it's hard to give...
Season 13 is upon us and it brings the biggest jungle changes we've seen in over 2 years. From the reworked Chemtech Dragon to the leashing range indicators to the new jungle pets, plus a huge secret thing that's happening with jungle experience and gold income that I will explain to you in this video, which means you should leave it with every bit of jungle information you need in order to thrive as soon as preseason hits, and also have that secret information I have regarding jungle experience for yourself as well as counter jungling, when no jungler you face will have it because they'll be too worried about petting their jungle pets. And that seems like a good idea to segue straight into the new smites and new jungle pet itemization. Gone are the 5 charges needed to upgrade your smite. Now all smites, no matter which of the 3 you choose, will have some things in common. Firstly, the really big added thing here is the 30% reduced damage from epic monsters while 2+ allies are nearby. That means taking dragons, heralds, and barons allow you to tank it and make sure your smite can go through and survive any sort of coin flippy fights. Good for us. And now the increase of 450 from the base level smite to 600 for every single jungle item. Each jungle item obviously comes with 40 treats, and jungle monsters that you clear count for 1 treat. Periodically you will get an extra treat consumed by your pet, and essentially you want to get that 40 to 0. Once you get that 40 to 20, it will upgrade the smite to 900 true damage to monsters, while also being usable now on champions, where it will do basically the same thing as the current chilling smite we have now, slows them and does true damage. The big fancy upgrade happens when you get that 40 treats down to 0. This converts your smite to 1200 true damage to monsters, so finally we will have something to, you know, deal with the Heimerdingers and Luxes of the world. And this is where the jungle pet you chose becomes important. First up, if you're a more damagey style jungle, then you're gonna want to go with Scorch Claw. This is where your jungle pet will now stack up to 100 over time when you kill monsters, and much like Chemtech, when you simply just use a spell or damage an enemy champion, it will slow them by 30%, decaying over 2 seconds, and burn them for 4% maximum health true damage over 4 seconds. That's kinda ridiculous. And again, this is outside of the smite that you have from the upgraded Unleashed smite that gives you access to the 900 damage. That is a separate mechanism that you can use in addition to it. Alternatively, you can go for a Moss Stomper. This is where killing monsters gives you a permanent 75 to 230 HP shield that regens out of combat, and also gives gives you 20% tenacity and slow resist when active. This will be pretty good on anything that wants to engage, that wants to get into the fight. You know, Hecarim could use Scorch Claw, but why when you have Must Number? Same thing for your Mundos and your tanks and so on. Finally, we have Gust Walker, the least impressive of the jungle pets, but you do gain 45% movement speed here, decaying over 2 seconds upon entering a bush. This is increased to 60% when killing large monsters. And as you would have seen, there are different levels of each of the pets. You have certain styles of animals. When you're 40 stacks, when you get to 20 stacks, they grow and upgrade like a Tamagotchi. And then when you finally get your pets down to 0 trees, they become their final form and you get access to the special Giga upgrade, the whole reason you chose the pet in the first place. The two most important things here that will lead to my special talk about experience is that the jungle pets will now give you 75% bonus experience on killing monsters, not 60 like is currently live, and periodically your pet will get a bonus treat upon which you kill a jungle monster and then you get plus 50 gold just because they're nice like that. And obviously that final upgrade gives you an AoE smite charge that allows you to farm even faster once you've reached that point, which is great for the mid game and the rotations necessary to actually enact some jungle macro if you happen to be a slower farmer. And you're seeing some effects of the AoE smite on those AoE camps on your screen now. Now, before I talk to you about the jungle experience and gold changes that aren't really being talked about, it's important to note that 1, the HP bars of all jungle monsters will now be above them. Really nice for you to be able to go ahead and sneak those camps without having to left click and always look at the HP on the top left. Additionally, smiting a jungle camp no longer gives HP, so all of those cool fights you have on invades around crabs, smiting it doesn't give you health. Only killing it gives you health, so basically you're gonna have to adapt how we fight around monsters. Scuttle Crab no longer has a shield and instead just has bonus HP, so CC jungle, don't worry about that. And Krug camps no longer have subsequent medium monsters. The mediums go into babies and the large one goes into babies. As such, the damage the pet does to the jungle camps means your clears in theory should be significantly healthier and in a lot of cases faster. But obviously this will depend on the leashing range indicators that have changed and will depend on what your jungler was doing to optimize their clear path. You are seeing now some clips of me running around the jungle showing you how it resets, how it's actually more forgiving in terms of the HP replenishment when it does reset, but also that you can still kite camps effectively, so that mechanic of dragging camps as you leave, as long as you get it low enough and can execute it, you should have no issue having optimized clear paths. But no, you cannot bring Blue and Grum together, those days are done. The clearing indicator is also not very invasive, it's quite subtle. You can see it in replays and you can also see it in game. Keep track of it, understand where the limits are, and learn about the reset timers. And also those little nooks and crannies where you might be able to trap a raptor camp or two. It really reflects your knowledge of the jungle leashing indicators in the new environment. Now what's this about jungle experience and gold changes? Why would the jungle item now give us more bonus experience, and why would the jungle pets give us more bonus gold? That's because each camp has less gold and each camp will be worth less base experience, which means it's more valuable for junglers than for laners to snack away. So spread the word and beat any laner who decides to think otherwise. Most importantly, however, because of the natural shift of everything, the experience break-even points are exactly the same. Once you've done red, raptors, wolves, blue, grump, you will be at level 3, 325 experience. That hasn't changed. When you do a full clear, you will be level 4. That hasn't changed. However, the two camps that have changed are the crab as well as the Krug camp. The Scuttler Crab is now worth 11 more experience at level 2 and 3. It also is worth 16 less gold. This shouldn't surprise you, as you'll see on the graphic now, every camp is worth less gold. And obviously when Krugs become easier to take and have less, time investment, they should also be worth less experience as well as gold. The old Krug camp gave us 131 gold as well as 216 experience. All of this is at level 1 of course, and the new updated Krugs gives us 199 experience with 102 gold. That means with the increase in experience from the crab, you want to try and float that at a 330 spawn timer. You also want to understand that taking that Krug camp is faster but worth a little bit less. That means once we get to say 4 minutes 29 in the game doing a full clear plus double crabs, you're looking at having just under 40 gold less than we currently would on live. Now what's happened is when I did testing on the Scuttler Crab as well, is that the level 11 crab, the max level crab, does give you significantly more experience on the PBE than it does on live, which means for season 13, that scaling crab is going to continue to be more valuable and be even more valuable than the Krug camp, whereas now the Krug camp is slightly more valuable, but they're about equal in nature at 11 level. Keep your eyes on the full patch notes for exactly what the scaling will be from level 2 to level 11, as right, we'll change that and play with it of course, but at least early you're seeing this drastic shift, and later you're seeing the scuttle crab being worth significantly more. And hey, if you're enjoying the quality of the information as well as the infographics to show you everything you need to know about Season 13, consider smiting the like button to help push this video to all those that you want in your games, because you want everyone in your game to know what's going on. So what necessarily does that mean for you, the farming jungler? Well, nothing. Your break-even points are exactly the same. You're going to play exactly the same way. You're just going to have more of a space between finishing your Krug camp, which you should be faster at taking, and then ganking, and of course then setting yourself up for a scuttle at 330. A lot of times if there's no gank available whatsoever, you'll simply reset, go opposite scuttle at 330. That won't really change, right? If you do a full clear reset, go to the opposite scuttle, that will be up at 315 and it's just floating around. Now it's up at 330 and it will just be floating around, and then you can carry on your sequencing. Yes, you will have less gold a little bit, but our experience should be the same as long as we're controlling at least one of those scuttle crabs. You obviously do lose some on the Krug camp, because all things considered, while we have a 17 experience reduction on the Krug camp, we have that 11 experience gain in the scuttle crab, so we're losing about 4 to 5 experience overall. Unless of course you double crab, which means you actually gain 6 experience. So double scuttling is going to be valuable once more, which means you might see a rise of 5 camp ganking into double crabbing, into relooping like we talked about even 2 years ago. I've been talking about this clip for a long time, and it's very important to think about controlling your own camps as well as double scuttle now, because one, obviously we want to make sure we get all the treats down to 20 as soon as possible. That gives us a huge smite advantage over the enemy jungler, and obviously it's now usable on champions. But 2, because counter jungling has been nerfed. That's right, those changes are in fact coming through, and you will see clips showing you exactly the damage reduction taking place. Level 1 as well as level 4 Groms, the same reduction takes place. This is the same on red, on blue, on Gromp, on Raptors, and you're going to see all of that on your screen now, me freezing it to show you that damage reduction. Essentially, the Volibear is doing 65 damage to his own Gromp, but only 54 damage to the enemy Gromp. That's 11 out of 65, and I'll just round it up and say that's 17% damage reduction. That is not minimal, that is not negligible, that is noticeable. And as Flora said, it will lose you about 9 seconds per quadrant, which means cheese late invades. Sneaky 3 quadrant only level 1s. These are not going to basically give you all of those advantages. You're going to lose a lot of time. It's going to be better to focus on double scuttling and optimizing an experience gain over the current jungle to negate the fact that you're also going to be losing gold. That, and of course the regular routes will all be the same. I'm going to discuss all of the routes in a video next week to show you what I think will be good, what will be good, what is good. But for now, you need to note that counter jungling has been heavily disincentivized early. Being proximal to lanes that you can dive is great, but snacking a camp that loses you 2-3 seconds, you're going to have to focus on that. Your champion might not have that 17% damage reduction, at least with Volibear's auto attacks it is so. As soon as the patch goes live, take your chosen lane, go to practice duel, time it. Time a red quadrant clear on your side, on their side, same for the blue quadrants. Now that's a boatload of information already that's going to drastically change the jungle, from our counter jungling, our itemization choices, the gold income, how we heal, how we clear, the kiting that we can do. And now there is yet another dragon that we need to think about. The return of Chemtech Dragon. And honestly, the map's quite nice. I do enjoy it. It's quite aesthetic. The bushes die a little bit, but all the plants go absolutely crazy. But the dragon itself gives you 5% tenacity and 5% heal and shield power per stack. The soul is going to give you 10% damage reduction and 10% bonus damage while below 50% HP. Windows and Olaf say, okay, welcome to the club. I think this will be really, really interesting, and I don't think it's necessarily as overpowered as a zombie version. It's just a little bit weaker. However, now at least it's going to be much more difficult. It's like the inverse Elder Dragon, essentially. You take Elder, it's easy to kill people as they get low, then execute, whereas when you have Chemtech Soul, it's impossible for them to kill you. It's really interesting. What wins versus Chemtech Soul and an Elder Dragon? Obviously, the Elder Dragon has to win. But the interactive bit here is that all of the plants get absolutely enhanced. The honey fruit becomes stim fruits. They no longer slow you when you walk in them, and they also give you a shield. The blasting range of the blast cone is increased 2 times, which means you sitting there for a selfie, a drop shows up, you go nope. Just learn where you jump, because you can easily jump in one place all the time, and I was doing that, and yeah, you want to avoid that. And finally, the Scry's Bloom is probably the biggest change because it has an increased range, plus a circular area behind the plant that shows you what's around you, and it grants movement speed towards scouted champions, as well as reducing the wards revealed to 1 HP. That is absolutely monstrous for a map. It's beautiful, it's fun, it's interactive, it makes all the other dragons feel kind of weird. At the same time, there are so many plants. I mean, why do we need honey fruit in my base? Hey, if you leave base and then you're not full HP, take some honey fruit. You don't even get slowed anymore. In your red buff blasting cones, you know, honey fruit against all the walls, nice little chem seepages everywhere, Singed is at home, Mundo's at home, Warwick's at home. Season 2 of Arcane when, but I like this dragon. I think this is much more fun compared to what we had before. I did like the camo zones in terms of the fun aspect when, you know, you have them when you have a lead. But if you had to tell me pick between that one and this one, I pick this one 10 out of 10. It is really beautiful to watch the Scry's Bloom do some work. They're all over the map. And basically they're saying, listen, why make people unseeable when you can just see them? So basically they've reversed the kind of logic in terms of the soul as well as the plant aspect of the map, and they've definitely kept the spirit alive. And obviously we need to talk about the communication system, because obviously we can vote for dragons, we can vote for heralds, and honestly I didn't think it was gonna be that great. I thought this is gonna be really annoying where the jungler says yes, let's go for it, and the laners are like no, no, no. But actually it was more like everyone wants to go for it all the time and then people die. So you're gonna need to use your new ping wheel to communicate if the fight changes based upon your vote. But obviously it's a good idea to have it so that your bot lane knows to set up, your mid laner knows to set up, your top laner proactively roams. This level of communication I think will have significantly more upside than downside. In the event there is a mix up in terms of the vote, you can obviously use the new ping wheel, which gives you all of what you see on your screen now in terms of accessibility. For all-ins, for freezing, for pushing, for on my way, for being cautious. This is the next level communication we needed. You do not need to use chat whatsoever, because we also have the vision wheel where we can set our pings appropriately. We can say, hey, the vision's been cleared in the zone, come jungler gank from my lane, while he does Krogs instead, but at least the Krog camp won't take as much time, so now they have no excuse but to rotate. We can also have the classical, hey, it's warded here, and finally we have a ping that says, look, we need to ward here, why don't you go off and do that ADC? Yes, you can use your trinket, it's free, top laners you too. Additionally, something I've always pointed out in coaching as a nice trick is when someone wards, you left click it, you quickly drag your mouse, you see who warded it, and of course you can see how much time is left on that ward, and then you can time it yourself. It's very difficult to do in the short amount of time that the ward shows, but it is a very nice skill aspect of using your mouse. However, sometimes things don't need to be difficult for the sake of being difficult, right? Agree. If you ping a ward within 10 seconds of it being placed, it will show up on your map like so, with a perfectly accurate timer whereby you can clear the ward or just circumvent it using some switch target. Now, in terms of the other changes that they brought forth, you know that we recommend clears and built-in items. You can use those if you're a new jungler and inexperienced jungler. Most of us are not going to be using it. I don't know if they're going to give it in terms of ranked games or it's just low levels or practice tool. I hope it is just that and the rest of us can continue to adapt without having this nonsense on our screen. But you will note the beautiful new graphics for all the pings, all the minimap icons. It really makes the game feel significantly more modern. The graphical updates have done to that, plus the monsters as well as the jungle pets. It is worth noting that those of you freaking out about the top lane experience buffs and the bot lane experience nerfs, yeah, I didn't really feel that whatsoever, because as I tweeted immediately afterwards, that was a very, very small percentage shift, and we were all overreacting based upon the numbers they showed. Whether or not this becomes an issue on live with highly skilled players, we'll see, but obviously in more 99% of your games, you're not really going to notice it too much, if at all. Finally, I'm not going to talk about the atomization. I already did that a few months ago. That will depend on your champion. That will depend on if you're an abuser of Spear of Shojin. But what I do recommend all of you reading is the tank atomization mythic choices. That will change drastically. The only item with Balmy Cinder is now Sunfire. It's cheaper and really doesn't seem all that great. Unfortunately, and I have tested this with a lot of Mundo gaming, you do not need the Balmy Cinder to clear the jungle. As I said, the way the pet clears and how healthy it is and how much damage it does, as well as the AoE smite upgrade after 40 treats, that means you don't really need this artificial boost to your clearing power. And then you have it all you need to know, everything you need to know about the jungle compiled with all the mounts as well as experience notes for games, and you can see how the jungle is going to stay the same, but also change very, very drastically. Let me know what pet you think your champion will be using or which one you think is the cutest. And if you want to understand the raw jungle fundamentals that will carry you no matter what changes come forth over the next years of jungle, the things that time cannot destroy, that's linked in the box on your screen now.
Has been slain. has been slain.
Okay.